Booktubers. My name is Mayana and welcome to Core. So if you don't watch my booktube channel and you haven't seen my live stream, you wouldn't know that I decided to come back to booktube. It took me literally leaving booktube and genuinely quitting and not reading and everything to realize how much I love and miss booktube. During that time I was reminiscing of when I first started 5 years ago, and when it was a much smaller and niche community, and I just reflected on what I want, and I love booktube. And yeah, my views were shitty, and I mean, even if you go back and you look at my I'm leaving video and the difference between the views on that video and the views that I got, it just, I don't know, I just was uploading on this channel and I was just so much more happier. And I think it genuinely was a fresh new start, because even though I don't get many views on this channel, I genuinely was happy with whatever views I was getting. I genuinely if I only got 2 views, I was so happy that someone was watching me. But then I was looking at what kind of content I wanted to make, and I was just I don't really have a life. Booktube was the only thing I could really, I don't want to say booktube was really the only thing that I could do, because it's mostly reading content. If I was a lifestyle channel, I don't have a life. I don't have a job right now, so I can't do clothing hauls. I don't go anywhere, so I can't do weekly vlogs, because I don't do anything but sit in my room all day. And the only place I can get away with that, honestly, is booktube. But it's I just had so many booktube ideas, and I was watching some booktubers and I'm damn, I kind of miss it here. And so I went live and I was okay guys, let's have a family meeting. What are we gonna do? And so we decided that I'm gonna upload on this channel, Core, for a little bit to see how it goes, and then if I like it, I'll stay here. If I don't, I'll go back to Mayana Reads. It's totally fine. But yeah, so I am here. It is so embarrassing. I felt I felt I quit a job, and then I was JK guys, I'm back. Literally to be I'm quitting booktube, and then 2 weeks later to come back. But genuinely I missed it, and so many people were telling me that they missed my channel, and I honestly didn't. I genuinely felt nobody cared about me. I genuinely felt nobody cared about me, which sounds very selfish to say, because I was at least getting 1,000 views. But I just didn't realize how much people watched me. And it took me even on my spiritual Twitter account, there were people who were girl, I love your videos. And I'm how the hell, how I had people telling me all the time that they miss my videos, and I miss you guys too, honestly. It honestly took me quitting booktube to realize how much I love booktube and what I loved about booktube. I've been here for 5 years, uploading consistently. Honestly, this year is my most inconsistent year, and I kept not uploading, disappearing for a little bit. But I genuinely feel I had to quit in order to really feel my love for booktube. But in that time, I started some other hobbies. I started gaming, I started crocheting, and I want to integrate that in my channel. And so today I'm going to be crocheting while I talk about the books that I read in September and October. This idea was given to me by my friend Shayla. She actually suggested that I make my heart-shaped waffles, because I make those all the time and I love them, while I do this video. But then I realized I don't like my kitchen. My room is my safe space. If you haven't noticed, that's why I'm always only in my room. My room is the only place in this house that I like. My room is my safe space. And so yeah, I'm just gonna be crocheting. So I'm going to crochet and tell you guys about the books that I've read within the past few months. I don't know how many books I read. I think I read 16 books within those 2 months. I don't remember, but let's just, and I got my tea here and I got my humidifier. I love this setup and this aesthetic, honestly. I feel this just feels so me. I'm not gonna talk about everything that I read, just because you guys know that I can talk and I'll be here all night. So yeah, and also I wanted to know, I feel I want to get back into new vlogs. That's one thing I miss a lot. So I want to know how you guys feel. I think I want to do regular videos on Mondays and then vlogs on Thursdays. So let me know your opinions on that. But yeah, let me just get into the video. So the first book I read, I've never done this before, so this is gonna be a little different. But let me get comfortable. Okay, let me get comfortable. Hold on. So the first book I read was Terms and Condition by Laura Asher, and this is the second book in a series. And I have never, well, I've read a Laura Asher book before. I've read several Laura Asher books. I don't particularly love her books. I think she's a very corny author. I feel like, sorry, my stitches are always so tight. I feel like she is like, I feel like she's a 16-year-old girl. And hold on, I skipped something here. If there's a spider in here, I am leaving. Because Apple only does that when there's a bug in here. You know what? Or maybe she's just tripping. That could also be the case. I feel like she's just like a 16-year-old girl who like writes what she thinks adult romance would be like. But like back, you know, like back when you first started reading Wattpad and you were like way too young to be reading on Wattpad. And like you were like 13, or I was like 13. And the like people would write like, you know, high schools, and like nobody was in high school and nobody really knew what high school was, but we were just writing what we thought high school was. That's kind of how Lauren Asher writes to me. I feel like I'm going in on her for like literally no reason. This author's done nothing to me. I just feel like she's very corny, and that just takes place in this book. So this series is like if young hot white men owned Disney, and like their grandpa dies and he leaves them their grandpa dies, and their grandpa like, Apple, what are you going through? Wow, this comeback is so lame. Like, so yeah, there's 3 brothers, and their grandpa dies, and they can't like get their money unless they like complete something that he wants to do. So like the first one, he wants to like find a wife or something, and the second one, yeah, something, they just have like stuff to do. So in this one, this is the second book in the series. I've read the first one, and this one, the grandfather wants him to like marry a woman, and so he's said to like marry some random woman, but his secretary ends up like saving him because she knows him best because she's his secretary. And so they end up like getting fake married, and it's like a Grumpy Sunshine book. And also the main character in this is black, which I liked, but there was one thing that like, there are some things that made me uncomfortable. Like the main character, like she didn't have a dad, and I just feel like that was so like stereotypical, like, oh, the black girl doesn't have a dad. And then also you have, I don't like get this in the frame, sorry if it's not. And then also like there was a scene when they were getting married, and the main character does not like his dad. He doesn't get along with his dad. None of them do. They hate their dad. He's a piece of shit. And so the dad is like trying to convince the girl not to marry him, and there's like this one-off line about like her having like a shitty deadbeat dad, and it just made me very, very, very uncomfortable. Yeah, so I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked it. I just don't like Lauren Asher as a writer. Like I said, I think she's very corny. The only reason why I read this book is because there was a black girl in it, and I was just very like starved for black girl like romances, so I read it. Kind of regret it, not gonna lie. I also read this book called Aaron's Patience, which I gave it 2 stars. I barely remember what this one is about. This was, wow, so long ago. This one was about this girl. Oh, this was a like what is it called, a secret baby trope, which I used to love that trope on Wattpad. I don't like the unexpected pregnancy trope because I think that's kind of boring, but there's something about having a secret baby trope that I just love. Like the angst there is just wow. Like when the character realizes like, hey, that's my child. She kind of gives, she kind of eats. Yeah, but this book, I didn't like the dialogue. I didn't like how the author like wrote these characters talking. This one is this is a black author. This is about a black girl who used to know this guy. Her dad was like this rich man, and she didn't know this guy, and whoopsies. Fuck. I think I need to go back. This is why you don't start off and talk at the same time. Like, but I don't know, the granny square is kind of eaten, so whatever. Yeah, so it's this guy named Aaron, and she used to know him as a child. And so, you know, she grows up, and her friend convinces her to go like to this sex club, so she goes there, and then she ends up like running into this guy, and like they have a one-night stand, and then he ends up realizing like she like had his kids, because they used to date. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. Because they used to like date or whatever, and they stopped because he had a secret wife, I think, or something like that. I don't remember. Secret girlfriend, secret wife, same difference. The man's still a liar, like men do. They end up like forming this relationship, and they have to like raise this family, blah blah. Like I said, I was not a huge fan of the dialogue in this book. The next book I read is the Mile High. I want to say the Mile High Club so bad. It's called Mile High. This book I ended up giving 4 stars. This is a hockey romance with a black girl. This is the black love hockey romance. It is a plus size black girl. And I've made, if you go on my Instagram, I have made what are they called? I forget what they are, but it's like trying to convince you to read this book based off aesthetics. I made one of those for this one. I actually have a playlist for this as well. I love pocket romances. I just feel like I tweeted this before, but I hate how like whenever there's a new trend, black people or black girls, when it comes to like books and stuff like that, not black girls read, but black people, we have to wait like long as hell to get like our turn in the genre. Like when it comes, especially when it comes to romance books, I feel like there still aren't really any dark romances. There aren't any dark romances that I know of with black girls as the main character. Now there are dark romances written by black women with white main characters, but why would I want to read about white people in 2022 and you're a black author? You know what I'm saying? And it actually is a shame because this author is white. This author is white. And she's writing about a hockey romance. And it sucks that like white people can write about like experiences for us before we get to like actually like get to write about those experiences for us anyways. But I love this book, I'm not gonna lie. So this book is about this girl and she's a flight attendant and he's a hockey player, and like obviously they have like their own private jet, and like she's not allowed to like fraternize with the guests, and he's like a player, he's trying to talk to her and she's just like no. And because like this is like their private like airplane, like she's always there, and they just like have like this really interesting relationship. And then also I forget if he lives in her apartment or her brother's apartment building, or if like the best friend lives there, but like it's kind of like can't say that word, don't know how to, forced proximity trope, you know what I'm trying to say. It's that trope, okay? And it just freaking like serves. Yeah, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I think it was just a bit too long. I hate when romance books are long. I really need to get over that because a lot of books are long now. A lot of romance books are long now. The next book I read was Watch Day Diaries. This was gifted to me by a subscriber. I gave it 5 stars. Obviously, I absolutely loved it. I feel like I really didn't have to tell y'all that I read this, but I just feel like I wanted to tell y'all that I read this because I ate this book up, devoured it. It was fun. I read it in a few hours. It was really cute. Now we're into October, and then I read this book called Losers Part 1. So this is, yeah, so then this one follows the book The Dare, which I have right behind me, but I can't pick it up because my hands are busy. Yeah, so this follows the book The Dare, and this so The Dare is about, it's this like really quick smutty romance that low-key was banned and had all the girls on Goodreads like flipping out like this is the darkest book I've ever read, when it really was child's play, not gonna lie, but whatever. Yeah, so this was about this girl who like ends up having this one night stand with this guy who her boyfriend used to bully in high school, and they're in college now, and then like his friends end up joining, and it was just like I loved it. So this follows like after that and like the outcome of that, and this was part 1. This was very, very long, but like I low-key ate that up because I wanted The Dare to be longer. So this was very long. I ate it up. I felt like it was still really good. Like sometimes I worry like when authors write about books that like when they write follow-ups to the novella, like sometimes the characters don't feel the same, things feel different, but like this was like literally perfect. Like obviously I gave it 5 stars. I feel like this book honestly changed me as a person. I'll never be the same in a good way. So if anybody wants to know what I'm making, I'm trying to make a tote bag, by the way, if anybody cares. Maybe I'll show you when I finished. I don't know if I'll ever finish. So far I had this is my second square, but I also took days off to do my box braids because I didn't braid my hair myself. And my hair is so cute today. I love it. I just feel like cottage girl girly, like honestly what I aspire to be. Cottage girl girly. Okay, and then I read this book called Dirty Kisses, The Lion and the Mouse, and this one is like a mafia romance, black girl. And I've been doing my work to find like black authors and black like books with black women, and honestly sad to say I can thank TikTok for that. So this one is a mafia romance. This is about this guy who's in the mafia, and he's looking for this girl because she has some information, and the main character is that girl who has the information. So they have to like work together, and it wasn't like the best. It didn't suck or anything. I just wasn't like obsessed with it. So then I read The Weight of Blood, which I originally gave 2.5 stars, but then I watched Jen Agaton's video. She did a live stream with Deja from Deja Book World, and Deja actually like talked some sense into me. The Weight of Blood is a Carrie retelling by Tiffany D. Jackson. This is my first Tiffany D. Jackson book I've ever read, and this unfortunately will be my last. Tiffany D. Jackson is just not for me, I don't think. I also don't really read YA anymore, so I will take that into account. Like, the book wasn't terrible, I just don't really read YA anymore. So this book is about this girl who goes to this school, and they have like this integrated prom, and basically she is white passing, and then one day it rains and people end up seeing her hair, and they end up like bullying her at school. And it's basically like the exact plot line of Carrie. Like, I'm not even fucking kidding. Like, literally, if you were to read or watch Carrie, like, this would be a carbon copy of it. And I just feel like she did herself an injustice with that, because the book it did keep me intrigued. It was good, but I just feel like this book could never, and obviously like the goal for books isn't to be adapted into movies, but this book could never be adapted into a movie because it's literally a carbon copy of a Carrie. Like, if it were to be made into a movie, you'd be like, well, what's the difference? The only difference is the race. And you know how people get when it comes to race. When it comes to black people and race. So it just wasn't all that, like, it wasn't all that interesting to me. Honestly, I thought the whole segregating prom thing was stupid. I get that, like, you know, there are schools in, you know, Georgia that were segregated up until a certain point. I know that. But this school was like literally, like, I know that they had a segregated prom, but think about it. You can't have a segregated prom without the school being segregated. Like, if we're being honest here. And like, why else would she get bullied for having curly hair if the school also wasn't segregated? And there was like this black kid who like had a white girlfriend, which is really weird to me because they were making fun of the girl with curly hair, but she had a black boyfriend. So my camera overheated, so I don't know where I was, or where I don't know where I was cut off at. But also, I was gone. This is what I was working on, and for some reason the thread just broke off, and I was like, okay, this is my sign to start over. So this is what I have now. And so yeah, so the next book I'm going to be talking about is Cackle. And so I gave this book 2 stars. When I first started reading it, I was like liking it. Like, it was giving spooky, because like the mention of the spiders was crazy. If you don't know what Cackle is about, it's about this girl who her boyfriend broke up, and she's just getting this job in this, I think it's in New York, or she's coming from New York. I don't know, something to do with New York. And she's just getting this job, and so she is going to be a teacher there, and she moves to this town, and the town is like really pretty decent, but she meets this woman, and the woman is like really weird, and like the description says that like people in the town like are like kind of like scared of her and like always warning the main character about her, but that's like absolutely not what was happening in the book at all. People in the town actually seem to love this lady. But I just found the book really boring, and like it wasn't funny, it wasn't spooky, it wasn't any of the things that the book was saying. And like the book was good. I found the book very interesting, but it's just, I came here for spooky, and that's not what I got. It honestly would have done good as like a small town horror, which I don't know, that's not a genre, I just made that up. And I feel like you could just figure out what I mean by that. I don't know. The next book I read was The Last Housewife, and I gave this 3 stars. This is when I was in my The Sims era. I gotta get back to that. So when I play like The Sims, or honestly I play, since I've been playing games, I try to play games that I can listen to audiobooks and game at the same time. That's pretty much why I got into gaming, because I like to be able to multitask. Like when I'm crocheting, I'm listening to an audiobook and crocheting at the same time. I like to like play games and listen to audiobooks, and so I was playing The Sims and I was listening to The Last Housewife, and that was like very interesting. This one is about this woman who was like in this cult and someone dies, and she's kind of like, she's not a detective, but for some reason she's investigating what happened, and you're going back between like when she was in this cult and the case that she's working on. And I thought it was really interesting. It has a lot to do with like the violence on women, which I thought was really interesting. It did kind of go overboard, and this author does write romance books, so like there was like a lot of sex scenes that were just like very violent and like uncalled for. And but like at the same time it kind of wasn't uncalled for. Like it kind of made sense because women do go through a lot of violence, especially when it comes to sex, especially like, you know, sex workers and porn stars and things like that. This book opened up a lot of great topics that I would like to talk about, but I don't know if I could talk about them on BookTube, I'm not gonna lie. But I personally thought that this book was like really interesting. It just kind of like, I don't know, I kind of just ended up getting bored over time. And then I read The It Girl by Ruth Ware, which I also gave 3 stars. And this one is like a dark academia book about this girl who's like an it girl, and then she ends up dying. And this one reminds me a lot of In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, but this one did it better. It's like a British thriller, which I'm not really into, but I kind of really like this one. And they're like in this boarding school, and it was actually funny because when I was reading this, I was playing The Sims, and I made this like House of Anubis type of gameplay that I have going on. So it's like I set all these characters and I put them in like a boarding school. It's not boarding school, I put them all in a house, and it's like a boarding school type of like House of Anubis. And while I was playing that, like this was playing, one of my characters caught on fire. It was very on par with what I was reading, to say the least. Not that one of the characters caught on fire, but you know, murder, things like that. Actually 2 of my characters died and caught on fire, now that I think about it. Yeah, it was very horrifying for me because I hadn't had a sim catch on fire for a long time. And I play on triple time speed, so I did not know what to do because for some reason my brain didn't go, hey, at least slow the speed down, pause it, something. I don't know. And so yeah, so this one I found really, really interesting. I just think it was like really, I don't know how to say, because I found it interesting, but I also found it slow and very boring, to say the least. And then I read One of the Girls. This one is a thriller about these women who are like, one of the ladies is like getting married, and it's a bunch of women, they're going on like this vacation. It's kind of like similar to The Guest List, and it's actually reminding me of The Guest List. And in case you don't remember, I fucking hate The Guest List. I think The Guest List is boring. I don't care about the plot twist. I didn't really care about the characters. I can't really say I found The Guest List boring because I did like the drama. Like, yeah, I did like the drama, some of it, but then it kind of got like over the top, and I was like, oh, okay, this is a bit too much for me. Yeah, so it really reminded me a lot personally of The Guest List, and I don't particularly like that book, so I wasn't really having the best time with One of the Girls. It wasn't nothing special. I haven't really been keeping up with BookTube that much, so I don't even know if people are really talking about this book for real. But I honestly would not waste your time reading this book. And then the last book I want to talk about is the Paw Bears Club, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I really, really like this one. I know a lot of people don't, but I personally had a lot of fun with this book. I found this book very entertaining, like funny entertaining. So this book is about this guy, and he was in this Paw Bears Club, which barely has to do with the plot line of the book, honestly. It has to do with anything. And he is writing this book. So this book, what we're reading, is his book. And he's writing about this encounter that he had with one of his friends, who he is assuming is a vampire. And she is reading this book, and she is writing like annotations in it. And she's like, I just found it so funny because he would like say something happened, she would be like have a perfectly good explanation of like as to why like it was not like that's actually what wasn't going on at all. And like, even though this book was like promoted as a horror, it wasn't really like scary. Honestly, the book was like entertaining and interesting, but it wasn't like, I don't know, it wasn't like something I've ever read before. So I can honestly see why people didn't like it, because it wasn't like a lot of like stuff going on. But it just reminds me of like a Goosebumps episode, honestly. And I love my Goosebumps. So I can honestly see why people don't love this book, but I found it so funny. It was just so good. And it's like you get to the end and you're like, oh shit, like did this really happen? Like, did he make it up? Did she make it up? And I really love when books make you question like what the fuck is going on here. Like, I feel like I don't know, I feel like that's just really good. This is my first Paul Tremblay book, so I'm very excited to read his other book, The Cabin at the End of the World, because the movie did get announced that it got a name change. It did get announced, and one of my favorite actors, whose name I don't remember, who was on Glee and in Frozen and in Mindhunter, my favorite show that I never finished. Yeah, he's in it, and so I'm like, duh, I gotta support, so I do have to read that book. But I feel like this was a nice, personally for me, this was a nice introduction for Paul Tremblay, and I honestly see why people don't like it. But I already knew that I was going to like it because Kayla from Books and Lala liked it, and we like a lot of the same books, especially when people on BookTube hate it. Like, I know if there are people on BookTube who hate something and Lala ate it up, I'm like, oh yeah, this is the book for me. Because we usually both like books that like BookTube doesn't like, which I find so funny. So yeah, that is it for this video. Like, comment, and subscribe. I am happy to be back on BookTube, honestly. Even filming this video just made me so happy, and like talking about the books that I read. I literally just tweeted, I was like, oh, one thing I don't miss about BookTube is the fact that like I don't have to like remember the plotline of books I read. And like, of course, that exact month I decide, hey, I'm gonna come back to BookTube. So there's that. But I did miss you guys, and I did miss this. Like I said, I'm gonna try to upload every Monday and Thursday. Mondays will be like regular videos, Thursdays will be vlogs, or I might switch it around because I might do like weekly vlogs. I don't know. I didn't do weekly vlogs on my BookTube channel, mainly because I didn't do weekly vlogs on my Anna Reads, mainly because my weekend reading vlogs got more views than my weekly reading vlogs, which I don't understand why, because they're the same length. But whatever. So that's it for this video. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video.